So moving forward here, naming your alter ego. All right. So if you decide, make sure I don't skip ahead. So now that you've nailed down your superpowers, again, maybe you haven't yet, but again, we're just working our way through the training here. So after you've got the superpowers, now it's time to name the alter ego. Why? Again, like I said before, for the very reason we name the enemy, name gives shape and form to something. So some examples, like I talk about in the book, Big Wave which is the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson character in the movie Moana. So that's an alter ego for one of my former clients. Sasha Fierce, Black Mamba, all examples. But in the book, we also unpack, different ways that you can, or not in the book, but in this training, we'll talk about other ways that you can name it. So as I run through all these ways to name your alter ego, I want you to scribble along with me. You can then go back and refine and pick your name once the lesson's over. So if you've decided to combine 2 or more sources of inspiration, like you can combine their names like Black Wonder, which is a combination of Black Panther and Wonder Woman. You could use Buddha Man, a combination of Buddha and Superman. Napoleon Patton, Napoleon Bonaparte and General Patton. Mesaldo, Lionel Messi and Ronaldo. Grandma Bear, your grandma and a bear. And even just the idea that this, definitely I've seen some people that Mama Bear is definitely something that comes out of them. Sonic Bond, which is Sonic the Hedgehog and James Bond, if that was somehow the 2 inspirations for your alter ego. And then you could also give your alter ego a title like King, Lord, Queen. You can add in your name or add in the name of your field of play or the main characteristic you'd like to display or the activity item you're trying to master. So it could be Commander of the Court. So that is the title, Commander, and the field of play, Court. Joanna, Queen of the Boardroom. So name, title, field of play. Matthew, Lord of the Strings. So that's name, title, and then inserting the activity. Susan, Queen of the Clothes. Name, title, activity, item you're trying to master. Taylor the Unstoppable. Name and inserting the characteristic. And you could simply give your alter ego the name of the animal or object you may have chosen and add in your name. So the Black Mamba, or Kobe the Black Mamba Bryant, the Lion, or Carrie the Lion Herman. That's a little nod to my sister. The Great White, or Keith the Great White Krantz, or The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, right? Another way to do it is, and again, this is the fun stuff for me. Like this is again, just the idea that imagine that at the age of like 43 or 52 or 36 or 27, that we can be a little more playful with our life. And again, this is to help us bring that trusted friend. At the end of the day, don't forget, Cicero said it best when he started this in 44 BC, the name alter ego. It's our trusted friend and ally that we bring internal. Or Cary Grant, when he said the quote at the end of his career, I pretended to be somebody I wanted to be, and I became that person, or he became me, or we met at some point, right? That's us finally integrating this into the way that we show up. So again, creating a fictional name as a secret identity, and then add in an adjective that would describe how you'd like to approach your field of play, like Beyonce did with Sasha Fierce. So Tracy Tough, Jackie Calm, Michael Sharp, Kenny Courage, Witty Winona, are all examples of ways that you can do this. And then finally, taking a superhero or character you're inspired by and add it in front of or behind your own name or the profession/role you're in, like Tasmanian Zach, or Editor Bond, which is profession plus James Bond. Michelle Lennon, your own name plus John Lennon. Incredible Baller, Incredible Hulk plus the role that you're playing as a basketball player. Sally Winfrey, your own name and Oprah Winfrey. Winston Marshall, Winston Churchill plus maybe your last name. And the best alter ego is the one you have the deepest emotional connection with. Now, why? I want to ask all of you in the comments, why is that the case? The best alter ego is the one you have the deepest emotional connection with. Because some people, I know, you're trying to intellectualize this, or you're trying to over-engineer this, when the reality is oftentimes the best source of inspiration for you is staring right in front of you. Nick says, because you embody it much easier. Catherine, it won't have the power if it doesn't have meaning. Emotion drives action. Absolutely, guys. All of that. Emotion is that greased slide that takes the idea of what you want and gets it out onto the field of play. That's it. Nothing happens without emotion. Scientifically, biologically proven. If we ever sever the ties between our intellectual reasoning mind and our emotional mind, if you ever sever that, we have the idea of I want to eat something. But if we don't have that connection, because it's been proven in different surgeries that have been done with people with Parkinson's or Alzheimer's and on, if there's ever that tie between the two that's been cut, they can't actually act on the decision that they're making. Okay, so the more that you have a deep emotional resonant connection, that can trump every single question that we've already run through, right? It almost won't matter, because at the end of the day, what makes this so powerful is this one final act that we'll be talking about next week, which is we honor the alter ego. We honor the character, we honor the history, we honor the name of that idea. Because don't forget, we as human beings have a tendency to do and want more for other people than we want for ourselves. All I'm doing with this is leveraging this idea and concept. So I'm not going to dishonor Walter Payton and Ronnie Lott when I'm going onto that football field. I'm not going to dishonor the memories of Geronimo and those other Native American warriors that I was bringing with me as a part of me out there. That's so important. That's why, you know, I've said before, grandmothers is the most common source of an alter ego. Now, I'm not saying 80% or 50%, but in the categories of inspiration, it sits at the highest percentage point. It's like 11% or something like that. Why? Because you have a deep emotional resonance with that family member. And because we don't dishonor, when we put on the glasses or the ring or the necklace or the socks or cinch the shoelaces up or whatever the case is, you know, you're not going to allow the enemy to pull you into the ordinary world with its typical little ploys of being perfect, getting it all right, who do you think you are, and all that kind of stuff, because you're not going to mistreat your grandmother or whoever it is that is your source. So emotional connection is incredibly important. So here's a quick test to see if you picked the right name for your alter ego or not. Do you have a strong emotional connection to your alter ego's name? Maybe, maybe not. Does the name connect to your alter ego's superpowers? Maybe, maybe not. Does the name trigger an action in you? That one, for me, is important. Or does it define possibly how you're going to be showing up? Does it help to connect to the role that you're doing? Again, all of these are just a quick little test, you know, but the name creates that form and substance for you. So at the end of this, after you have that name, what happens? Now you've got the name of that hero that gets to fight that enemy, or it's the light versus the shadow side. We've just created a perfect duality in the way that we're going to go and win on that field. Okay. Check in with everybody. Any questions? I'm going to stop sharing for a second here. All right. I'm going to give full view for everybody. Tamar says, should the alter ego intimidate you when you think about it? I mean, make you feel like you are at the edge of who you really want to show up as? I don't know. It's a tough one because you're bringing a more meaning to that question that I'm probably understanding, Tamar. But you know, as a useful way to think about this, and maybe I'll bring this up right here. Okay, so let's go back to my trusty iPad here. So as a way to think about this is, let's say that you're sitting right here, and this is the totality of, and this is your world of being an entrepreneur, okay? Entrepreneur. And this is your current comfort zone. And your comfort zone might be that, okay, so I'm someone who can earn 150K in my business. I'm someone who, and then again, I'm someone who takes these kinds of actions. And the moment that you end up getting to the end of your comfort zone, right out here, that is where you start to resist. Why? Because when you're reaching a comfort zone, there's a whole bunch of emotional resistance that starts to show up. Now, what most people do, and if you guys haven't ever seen me unpack this in the interview that I did with my good friend Marie Forleo on Marie TV, if someone wants to grab that link and post it in the chat here for everybody, and you can watch it later, or you just go do a search for it, Marie TV, Todd Herman, go do it on YouTube and you'll find it. I talk about how, like, I explain why, but what most people do is anytime they get up against that comfort zone of action, of their current level of your identity, because that's what you're coming up against. You're coming up to the current definition of what you think your identity is and what it can and cannot do. You retract because you go, oh, it just doesn't feel right, or I'm just not cut out for this, and that's the enemy pulling you in. But the power of this is when you create a new identity for yourself out here, it already starts acting through this level. And so it bursts through that comfort zone because that narrative doesn't exist. My point about saying this to you, Tamara, is, if your alter ego scares you, does it scare you actually? Or what is it about it that is actually scaring you? Because what should scare you is a tiger chasing you down. That's scary. The stuff that we're all talking about, rarely is this stuff scary. Even confronting someone in a conversation, that's not necessarily scary. Some people do live inside of worlds where they could be putting themselves into a scary situation. I'm not advocating for that. Like if it's an abusive relationship and they've got to confront someone, like that's when I want to have some allies around me so I can have some support. But that's not the situation I'm talking about. Most of the things that we're talking about here are intellectual fears, not real dangers. Okay, so let me know if that was helpful, Tamara. And then again, like once you get out here, maybe you realize, oh man, like this alter ego that I built, great stuff. I've unknowingly created another ceiling for it. It's like, great, let's reinvent it again. Let's reinvent it again. And again, why I'm drawing it from down here, this is just like inside of the alter ego model. This is just this source of like pure possibility that we have and creative expression. And its only limits are the ones that you're placing on it. So now it goes out here and it's operating in this place. And that's why I can, that's why I'm known as the quick hit artist. I'm the guy who I come in and do the quick fixes with people, when they've got when they're playing at the US Open out in Flushing Meadows here in New York City, right? Like because I'm operating at the identity level, not at the trying to change you behaviorally level, because when you change the identity, the behaviors change because you're acting through a new identity. And when you act through a new identity, it shifts the way that you show up. It shifts the way that you're thinking. It shifts the responses that you have to things, which then creates the new result or reality for you. You're welcome. Great stuff, Chelsea. Kyle, this is great. It's like resetting my goals for the alter ego. It or they have no issues hitting the next goal and the next one. So once I hit a goal, I can take the time to reset my intentions for 100%. And this is the stuff that's lost. It's in a lot of the ways that people talk about success. Everyone's trying to manufacture a new way of approaching life, and it runs counter to nature. This is built into us. We have already done this. There doesn't need to be any sort of resistance, even in the way that, you know, I'm talking about this because I've lived this for the last very long time. This is just, you can ease into it. There doesn't need to be any stress. You know, how would you approach this if you were a 7 and 8 year old? You know, a 7 and 8 year old or a 6 year old wouldn't need to necessarily even answer all those questions that we've got in number 1 and number 2 of the masterclass. And I'm not saying that to discount the things that we just talked about, because it's a great model to help unpack. But at the end of the day, just the idea of being playful with this, testing it out, getting it out of the field, trying it out, right? Like, it's like, hey, I wonder how I would walk into a Starbucks as, you know, this alter ego, and try on a bunch of them. You don't have to be just one right now. Say, you know what, I'm going to try this as, how would Wonder Woman approach this? Go watch a few videos of Wonder Woman on YouTube. Go watch a few videos of the Incredible Hulk. Go watch a few videos of whoever, and, like, you know, how would you stand? You know, how would you order? What would you say? How would you hold the door differently, if possible? Again, don't forget that Clark Kent was built so that Superman could walk amongst people and be accepted. And he was a mild-mannered version, a mild-mannered, you know, human that was walking the earth. My contention is that most people, and even the ones that are on this right now, you're all walking around as an alter ego already, right? That's being accepted, that doesn't step on people's toes and all that. So my contention is that I treat you as if you're Superman already, or Wonder Woman already. You're not the self that you're bringing to the current situation. There's way more that's hidden beneath the surface of what's being shown. And I'm using an alter ego to combat the current alter ego, so that the Superman sitting inside gets revealed. That's kind of, you know, another way to be thinking about just how I am approaching each of you. If you were, someone was sitting, pointing over here, because that's, you know, the sofa in my office here, you know, of the way, you know, I'm not fixing anybody. I'm not putting someone on the couch to do therapy or anything, but my approach is that the Superman, the Wonder Woman, that heroic self is already there. My job is to use your creative imagination to help untether yourself to the resistance and the strings and the thoughts and the narrative that holds people back, and cuts those things in an instant to help get you out there. Now, 10 seconds later, those strings might reattach. But if you did something for 10 seconds, you can do it for 15. If you can do it for 15, you can do it for a minute. If you can do it for a minute, you can do it for 3 minutes. 3 minutes to 15 minutes, 15 minutes to an hour. And then all of a sudden, you're like Cary Grant says, you became the person that you most wanted to be.